Okay, again, the topic this evening is the frugal experimenter, and the presentation is going to be given by Dr. Bryan Dodson. Dr. Dodson is currently the Director of Quality Strategy and Transformation for the Americas and has 30 years of leadership in product development and manufacturing. Prior to joining SKF, Dr. Dodson has held the positions of Senior Director, Corporate Quality and Continuous Improvement and Plant Manager at Collins and Aikman. Prior to joining Collins and Aikman, he served as Senior Manager of Quality and Reliability Engineering with global responsibility for Visteon. Dr. Dodson has authored several books, including Probabilistic Design for Optimization and Robustness for Engineers, The Reliability Engineering Handbook, Practical Accelerated Testing, and Well Bowl Analysis. Dr. Dodson has also developed several software packages, including the Reliability and Maintenance Analyst, which is a standard for NASA. Dr. Dodson is an ASQ Fellow, an SAE Fellow, and a licensed professional engineer. Without further ado, I will welcome Dr. Bryan Dodson.
So thanks everyone for your time.
I think I've enabled you to share. I'll double check. Oh, okay. Now you should be able to share your screen, and I will stop mine.
And now you should be able to see my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Do you see an Excel spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, instead of boring everyone, I'm going to work through an example. And this is some techniques that I've picked up through my career. When I started at Alcoa, we made these very large aluminum coils, 40 to 60,000 feet of aluminum, 3 to 6 feet wide. And so they were extremely expensive. You didn't just say, oh, let's replicate 10 experiments and let's do 32 trials. You'd be broke. And this is continued on in several other cases. Now I'm at SKF, and when we do these very large slewing bearings or wind turbine bearings, we have the same issue where you have parts that may cost $100,000, and I'm sure all of you have faced this in some cases where you have prototype parts that are very expensive, or in some cases you just can't get time on a manufacturing floor. So you have to be frugal. And the Excel spreadsheet that I'm showing here, I will save everything. And the reason I'm doing it in Excel is so you can kind of get down to the nuts and bolts of what's happening and see some of the background and understand it a little better than we did it in software. And what I have here is some software that I developed originally just to teach myself. People would do experiments, and I was lucky enough to work with a couple really good statistical people. And I said, well, how do you know that's right? And how can I prove it to myself? And so I started writing some simulations. And what this is I have many exercises here, and they're all some sort of engineering problem. Like the one we're about to work on is an open channel flow. So you can imagine moving water out of a city in a V-shaped ditch, if you will. And so the question is, how much water is moving, and do you need to move? And then some of the parameters might be the slope of the sides, the depth, the width of the bottom. But I have electrical circuits, beam deflection, a lot of different engineering things in here. And when you open this, it randomly assigns the inputs to these factors, and it changes the constraints, and it adds some noise to the system. So you can play and practice just like you would in the real world, and get a feel for what's going on. So we're going to solve this problem. So in this case, we've got 6 variables, and these are the constraints on those variables. So we need to do an experiment. And in this case, we want to control the output. So our goal is to get an empirical model. We want to get a second order polynomial. And I won't go into it, but I will send some information that you can get that says why second order polynomials do such a great job of estimating real engineering situations that are not even close to a second order polynomial. So that's our goal. And if we wanted to get a second order polynomial, we would need 3 levels. And if you take 3 levels, so if I just say 3 raised to the 6 with 6 variables, that'd be 729 trials. And let's replicate that. We're over 1,000 trials. And if you figure it's $100,000 per trial, then you go to your manager and you're either laughed out of the office or they just go ahead and fire you. So how can we do this in a very frugal way? Well, if you look at these fractional factorials, and I've got them set up here, I can put 3 variables into a 4 trial design. I can put 7 variables into 8 trials. I can put 15 into 16 trials, and you kind of get the idea. The number of trials, I can fit 1 less variable. Well, what's the punishment for that? The punishment for that is when I finish this experiment, and let's say the variable I put in factor in column 4 is statistically significant. Well, in reality, I don't know if that variable is statistically significant or if it's the interaction between the variables in columns 1 and 2 or the interactions between the variables in columns 3 and 7 or the variables in the columns, the interaction between the variables in columns 5 and 6. But that's okay because we want to screen out early, and separating out the confounding is not as difficult as it looks. So over here on exercise 7, this is where we're going to work this problem. And what I've done over here, well, you can see I've put the low and the high values of each of my variables here. And then what I did here is I just said, if this is equal to -1, give me the low value. If it's not equal to -1, then give me the high value. And I just did that for this entire table. And so that very quickly gives me the values for my experiment. Now, in a real experiment, I should randomize these. And there's 2 ways to do that. I either randomize these trials, which is what you see in software, or I could just randomly assign the variables to the columns, and that would randomize it. In this case, I didn't randomize it at all because we only have an hour for this presentation, and in the software, the randomization doesn't matter. So these are the experiments that I want to run. I come over here, and I've got a shortcut here, so I don't have to type all these values in. And you see now we've got 8 trials, and these are the results. So let me copy this column. And now if I analyze this, what's going to happen? And why did I put dummy over here? Because I only have 6 variables. So if I analyze this, let's see what happens. I go to data analysis regression. My Y range is here. That's my output. And then for my input range, I'm always going to use the coded data. Why am I going to use the coded data? Mathematically, things are better if they're coded. There's a lot of good properties that we won't go into, but just for example, let's just look at an interaction. If I look at the interaction table, you see that column 1 is confounded with columns 2 and 4. So if I look at 2 and 4, which would be B and D, you see minus 1 times 1 is minus 1. Minus 1 times 1 is minus 1. 1 times minus 1 is minus 1. So if you look at that, the product of B and D will always be equal to A. If I come over here, the product of B and D will not be equal to A because 50 times minus 50 is not going to be 0. And so you lose some mathematical things. So it's good practice to do this on the coded data. And I included this confounding. And then when I analyze this, I don't get any p-values. I don't get any standard error. And it says I don't have any degrees of freedom. And that makes sense because I only have 8 experiments and I have 8 unknowns. I have an intercept. I have a slope for each of these variables and then a slope for this one. And you say, well, wait a minute. I don't have a variable 7. So why don't I just use that as for degrees of freedom? I could mathematically, but it's a very bad idea. And the reason it's a bad idea is what if what if the interaction between variables 2 and 5 is strongly statistically significant? If it is, then it's not experimental error that's resting in this column. It would be the slope of the interaction between these variables. And that could be very big, could be much higher than the true experimental error, and then it might mask some things that are not statistically significant. So we always want to use a fully saturated design. So even if I don't have a variable 7, I want to use a variable 7. But in this case, we don't have an estimate for experimental error. So what do? We replicate. In many software packages, the option is replicate the whole thing, replicate all 8. Well, what if I don't have enough money for that? Well, fine. What's the minimum? If I replicate 1 row, I get an estimate of experimental error. Not going to be that great. One replication, just by chance, by bad luck, it might be really close to the previous one. By bad luck, it also might be really far from the previous one. And in one case, I underestimate the noise in the system, which means things might show up as statistically significant that are not. And in the other case, I overestimate it, which means I might mask things. But in some cases, if it's very expensive, you might just have to take that chance. And then if you get funny results, then you have to discuss with your management if it's worth running another replication. What I've found is if you do 2 replications, you get a pretty good estimate. We should randomly pick 2 of these. I'm just going to take the last 2 today just for speed. Again, because we only have an hour. And I'm just going to call this 7R and 8R for replication. Bring these down. There they are. Excel didn't copy very well. So here we go. And now I have two more replications. And you see it's a little bit different than this one. And let's take a look at this one. A little bit different than this one. Now let's analyze it. Now my Y range goes down here. My X range is here. And now I have 2 degrees of freedom for experimental error, which is what I should have. If I look at my p-values, I like to come to the home screen, change that to %. And I like to come over here and get the same number of decimal places. And so now I have something that's interesting. So, you know, what's the rule on the p-value? Is it less than 1% is statistically significant? Is it less than 5%? And I tend to be much more of an engineer than a statistician. And my rule of thumb is if it's less than 1%, then I'm pretty sure it's statistically significant. If it's greater than 10%, I'm pretty sure it's not. If it's between 1 and 10%, then I kind of put it on a maybe list. But in these two cases, I'm pretty sure I've got, so for B and C, I've got 0. For F, I've got 0. Now, there is nothing in 7. Actually, there's some interactions between 1 and 6 and 2 and 5 and 3 or 4. So this could be one of those interactions. So let's take a look at that. First of all, if I look at the coefficients, another advantage of using coded data is this coefficient can be compared across all variables because the span on the x-axis is 2 from +1 minus -1. So the effect would be, if we had the effect, it would be twice the coefficient. So we can compare these directly. So in this case, I have 8,600, 6,100, and minus 27,000. So in this case, I don't care if the p-value of this is 0. With a coefficient of 53 compared to these coefficients, I'm not going to include that in my model just because it's going to take more trials later on. So this is in the suspect range, in the maybe range because of the p-value, but because of the coefficient, forget about it. It's just not important. And that's one of the things that happens when you do a small number of replications. We did 2 replications. What happened? We probably underestimated the experimental error a little bit, and this one showed up as maybe statistically significant. But the coefficient's nothing compared to the ones that are. So we exclude it in the future. The other thing is, let's look at the interactions. From a hierarchy ordering principle, you tend not to have interactions that are significant in an engineering term unless the main effects are significant. So I have A and F. Well, A is not significant. I have B and E. Well, E is not significant. And then I have C and D. Well, D is not significant. So for all 3 of these, only one of these variables are significant. So it's not that likely. If both main effects are in here, then it's likely that that interaction is important. If one of them is there, it's much less likely. If neither of them are there, then it's very unlikely. So in with this phase, we're pretty happy. We started with 6 variables. We ended up with 3, but we know that B could be any of these interactions. C could be any of these interactions. And F could be any of these interactions. So we have to do another experiment. And if I have 3 variables, well, let's forget 3 variables. If I have any number of variables, how do I separate out the confounding? Well, there's another principle, and I will send you a paper on this too. If when you're making an empirical model, the contribution of interactions drops off dramatically as the number of terms in the interaction increases. And in fact, three-way interactions typically only contribute maybe 1% as much as a main effect. And so we typically don't include three-way interactions. So if I only need main effects and two-way interactions, well, then how do I get that? Well, what we have here is a resolution 3 design, because two-way interactions are confounded with main effects. So 2 plus 1 is 3. It's resolution 3. If I need all my two-way interactions to be clean from each other and from main effects, then if I go to resolution 4, main effects plus two-way interactions, that's 3. Well, I would have no problem with a resolution 4 for that. But two-way interactions are confounded with other two-way interactions. So 2 plus 2 is 4. So the resolution 4 design is a problem. So I need a resolution 5 or higher design to cleanly get my main effects and my two-way interactions. Well, it turns out that with 3 variables, 4 trials is a resolution 3, and 8 trials is a full factorial. So let's do the exercise 7 confounding. So now I have B, I have C, and I have F, and I need a full factorial. So I get 4 minus 1s, I get 4 plus 1s. So there's my full factorial. So I have to run 8 more experiments. No, I don't. And why don't I have to run 4 more experiments? Because I already ran these experiments. So let me just copy these over. And it's been my experience that many of the problems when you're doing DOEs is things like this: copying the data over, filling out a worksheet and providing it with operators or prototype shops. those sort of things, you tend to make mistakes. So always I found things get much better if you have two people working on it. And when I say that, please watch me. Make sure I don't make any mistakes because it's 9:30 here in South Carolina and I worked all day. So what do? I take this and I sort it. Why do I sort it? So I'm going to sort by B, then I'm going to sort by C, then I'm going to sort by F. And the reason I sort is because it's easy to match. Do I have all three variables at -1? No, I don't. Do I have -1 plus 1? I have -1 plus 1 twice. So there's the first one. And then what happens to the second one? I'm going to put that down here. And now that's a replication that I have that I didn't have to pay for. Do I have -1 plus 1 minus 1? -1 plus 1 minus 1? Also have that twice. So there's the first one. And then we copy this down. Do I have -1 plus 1 plus 1? No. Do I have +1 minus 1 minus 1? Yes. I have that one 3 times. So +1 minus 1 minus 1. Since I have it 3 times, I'm going to paste it 2 more times down here. And I get a couple more free replications. Do I have +1 minus 1 plus 1? No. Do I have everything at +1? I also have that 3 times. So there's the first one. Here's the next 2. And I'm assuming that I have no errors in here since you watched me and no one yelled at me. So now to run this full factorial, we don't have to run 8 experiments. We only have to run 4 additional experiments to separate out the confounding. And now the question is, what level do we set A, D, and E at? And the answer is it doesn't matter. They're not statistically significant, so they don't affect the output. Now, just from a good practices, it'd be best to hold them constant. So in case they are slightly significant, and they just didn't show up as statistically significant, then it reduces the noise. The other thing is you look at things in terms of practicality. So if this is thickness of gold coating, we would go to the minimum because gold costs money. If this is temperature of the furnace in a factory and it's a big furnace, we might just say use whatever temperature it's sitting at because we don't want to spend money, or we don't want to spend time and money to change the temperature. So some practical things go in there. What I'm going to do here is, since this is a simulation, I know I tend to put the wrong numbers in the box. So what I'm going to do is just put many decimal places because that catches my eye and says, hey, don't accidentally put it in A. Don't accidentally put it in D. Don't accidentally put it in E. And so now what experiment do I need to run? I need B at the low side, which is 10. I need C at the low side, which is also 10. And I need F at the low side, which is 30. So I run this experiment and I get 10,017. What's the next one I run? I need B at the low, which is 10. I need C at the high, which is 30. And I need F at the high, which is 100. Compute the response. And it's minus 31,000. My next one is B at the high, which would be 50. C at low, which would be 10. And F high, which would be 100. And again, we should run these in random order, but since we're short on time, I'm not doing that. And then finally, we need B high, it is at 50, C high at 30, and then F low at 30. We compute the response and we get 4687. Copy this cell. So there's my results. Now I'm just going to save this. Now I'm going to go data analysis, regression. And if I do regression right here, what's going to happen? I'm not going to take the time to do it, but I'm not going to get any interactions because I don't have any interactions. I need to add the interactions. So BC, BF, CF. And if I wanted to, I could do the BCF. I'm not going to do it because I don't care about three-way interactions. And I'm going to move this because Excel wants all your X variables to be next to each other. So what is the BC interaction? It's B times C. What's the BF interaction? B times F, and CF would be C times F. Now I have all my interactions. Now if I go to data analysis and regression, my Y range is right here. My X range is here. My output range, let's put it right here. And it didn't like it for some reason. What did I do wrong? Oh, it didn't. There we go. Now, what do we get? Again, make these percents. Get rid of the decimals over, or make the same number here. And what do we have? Now we're getting C and F. I'm just going to make these yellow. I'll explain why in a minute. And CF. So what this is telling me is that the only reason B showed up as statistically significant is because it was confounded with CF. Well, first of all, let's see if that's true. Yeah, B is confounded with CF. But B had a coefficient of 8679. What does CF have? 8679, 8701, those are pretty close. So I'm happy. Because why? When we did the original experiment, we didn't say 8679 is the coefficient for B. we said 8679 is the coefficient for B plus the interaction between A and D plus the interaction between C and F plus, well, this is a non-existent interaction because there is no variable 7. And now what we've done is 8679, 8701, we have confirmed that CF by itself, because this is not confounded with anything, this was a full factorial, gives us essentially the same result. And if you look at the standard error, it's within the standard, the range of the standard error. But let's double check over here. What did we get with C before? With C, we got 6109. What do we get now? Very close. So again, I'm happy. And let's also double check F. We got minus 27,000 roughly. And yep, pretty close. So now we've resolved the confounding. So instead of doing a full factorial, which would have been terrible as far as number of trials, or even starting off with a resolution 5 design, we were able to do a resolution 3 design with only 2 replications and then come back with only 4 more trials and completely separate out the confounding. So now, where are we? We still need our equation. Well, to get an equation, we need center points. What we have right now is this. We've run these red points multiple times. But if I want a second order polynomial, I need some center points. And so I need to run these center points. So what do I need? And let me just make a new spreadsheet first. I will copy this. And I'll call this exercise 7. And I'll put poly for polynomial. So what have I got now? I know B doesn't matter. I just need C and F, and I've got C and F. So I'm going to delete this. Oh, yeah, I'll redo these. So if I want to do this, what do I have? I have CF, the interaction of CF. I'm going to have C squared, and I'm going to have F squared. But if I look over here, what trials do I need? I need C at 10 and F at 30. So C at 10 would be C at -1 and F at -1. And then I need C at 30, which would be C at +1, and F is still at -1. Sorry. I don't need those. Those are the ones I just run. I need this. I need C in the middle. I need C at 0. And I need F at its low level, -1. Then I need C at -1, F at 0. I need C at 0, F at 0, and then I need C at 1, F at 0, and then finally I need C at 0, sorry, C at -1, F at 0. So now if I look at these last 5 trials, something's not right. Should be 3 zeros here. So what have I got? I've got C at 0, F at -1. I've got C at -1, F at 0. That's correct. Both of them at 0. Then I've got C at +1, F at 0. And then I have C at 0, and that should be +1. Okay, that looks better. You see, I've got 3 zeros, a -1, and a +1. I've got 3 zeros, a -1, and a +1. So now these are the 5 additional points I need. So let's take a look at this. So now we're not interested in B anymore. But we are interested C. Now what is C at 0? It's the midpoint of 10 and 30, which would be 20. And then we want F at the low level, which would be 30. And there we have it. What's the next point? C at the low level, which is 10. F at the midpoint, which would be 65. The next point is both of them at the midpoint, so 2065. That's 548. The next point is 1 and 0. So 1 would be the high level, which would be 30. 0 would still be 65. We get 5297. And then finally, we want 0, which would be 20 here. The high point, which would be 100 here. So what's happened now? We started out with 8 trials, 2 trials for estimation of noise in the experiments. That's 10 trials. An additional 4 experiments to separate out the confounding. So I'm up to 14. And then 5 more experiments to give me enough data to get an empirical model for a second order polynomial. So let's see if this works. C times F, C squared, F squared. Now, when I run this, it's not near as sensitive, the mathematically, to coded data versus uncoded data. I'm going to run it with coded data to start with. So there's my Y. Here's my X. Put the output here. Click OK. And now I get another check. It's one of the nice things about doing these things sequentially is each step follows up on the previous step. Should all of these be significant? Not necessarily, but CF and C times F should be significant, and the coefficients should be pretty much the same, which they are. So why am I not alarmed if C squared or F squared are not statistically significant? And the reason is, if C squared is not significant, it just means that there's no curvature around the variable C. It's approximately linear. And the same thing for F. If F squared is not statistically significant, then it means I have a simple system and it's probably close to linear. You don't see that so often because if systems are linear, you usually solve the problem before you resort to a DOE. They're not that complicated. You turn the knob and it moves in the same way predictably and in a linear way. I mean, the interactions can cause problems for you, but more complicated if you have a lot of curvature. So now I could work with an equation right now and optimize the system. Now the problem is I have to turn -1, this scale from -1 to +1 into the real values. And as we said, it's not that sensitive to the true values here. So what I like to do is just take the real data. So here I'm going to copy all of the data and I'm just going to put it over here to the right hand side. We're only interested in C and F, so there's C. I'm just going to I'll just do it over here to the right. I'll delete everything else. So I have get rid of A and B. Get rid of these. Okay, and I have C times F. I have C squared. I have F squared. And I already created these formulas, so I will just copy them. And before I run this here, the other benefit of this, again, is we can compare the coefficients because everything goes from -1 to +1. So if I look at this, I see that F is the strongest variable by far, 3 times as powerful as this interaction, 4 times as powerful as this one. Even F squared isn't quite as powerful as this, but so if I want to make big changes, I use F. If I want to tweak the system and make smaller changes, I use C. And I look at the cost of changing these two. So now I can come back over here. I can run this on this data. So I say data analysis regression. My Y range is now this. My X range is this. I'll put my output in Z1. And when I finish this, I want you to pay attention to what Excel does. Notice how it writes over these 3 rows. So because of that, I never put anything in these rows because if I have to redo my regression, it will be deleted by Excel. So I'm going to put C here. I'm going to put F here. And I'm going to put Y here. And let's just test one of these. What if C is 20? What if F is 100? Then I should get about minus 44,000. Well, what's my equation? My equation is the intercept plus the coefficient of C multiplied by C plus the coefficient of F multiplied by F plus the coefficient for the CF interaction multiplied by C multiplied by F plus the coefficient for C squared multiplied by C squared plus the coefficient for F squared multiplied by F squared. And I'm very happy. It's close. Let's check another one. If we, let's check a good one. We get almost 10,000 when I have 10 and 30. Now I'm really happy. And now I always click save. Why do I click save? Because I'm about to optimize with the solver tool inside of Excel. I know from experience that every now and then solver will crash and then you may lose your spreadsheet. So I go to solver and I say, I want this value of Y, in this case, maximized. I'm going to allow solver to change C and F. And then subject to the constraints. And I should put in constraints that says C needs to be between 10 and 30, and F needs to be between 30 and 100. I'm not going to do that because I have a second order polynomial. And when you're trying to optimize, very often they're self-constrained and they won't go outside of these limits anyway. So I'm going to be lazy and try to solve it first. If they go outside of the constraints, then I will add the constraints. So I click solve. If you look down here, it's probably going to happen really fast. It said it converged. Constraints are satisfied. So it's saying set C to 18 and F to 38, and I should get 10,372, which is higher than anything I achieved before. So let's try it. Let's set 10 to 18, or sorry, C to 18, F to 38, compute response. And look at that, 10,308, pretty close. Do a few replications. And so I'm happy. I optimized. So in summary, screening with as high of confounding as you can get, resolution 3. Separate out your confounding with a resolution 5, then add center points so you can get an empirical model. In some cases, you can't do this sequentially. This only works if it's sequential. When I worked at Conti Davis, we were doing analog brakes. The wheel speed sensors, we had a durability test. And the durability test took about 6 weeks in a combination temperature cycling vibration chamber. And the sensors were very inexpensive, and the chamber would hold 50 parts. So to do a 6-week experiment and then come back and do another 6-week experiment and then do another 6-week experiment, well, we could put 50 parts in there. We just as well put in 50 and try to get as much of this data as possible. So there are some limits to this. But all in all, I find it very efficient. So are there any questions?
How do you pick your max and min values? Do you have a rule of thumb?
Yeah, I mean, that's, oh, go ahead.
Like the actual things you change. Like, how do you know what should set as min and max?
So that's a very tough thing. Um, you you want to go wide enough so that your equation is good. So here, this equation is only good over this min and max. So let's say I'm trying to just design a wheel speed sensor, and this was back in the old days. So I'd have wire diameter, number of wraps. I would want to go wide enough on those so that it would encompass any of the designs that I might be considering. Now, what if I'm in a factory and I'm grinding a ring? Well, what's my grinding wheel speed? Probably the higher end is going to be as fast as that machine will go. What about the lower speed? It's probably going to be set either by I need to be fast enough to actually grind something, or maybe even a little faster, because if I'm grinding too slow, I lose too much efficiency. The third thing to look out for is are you violating the physics? So let's say I have I'm trying to make an explosion and I have oxygen as one of my variables. Well, I don't I don't put the low value at 0 because I know it's not going to explode if I don't have any oxygen. But this is where I recommend you get the experts. And I always, when I say the experts, the engineering people that really know about it. If you're in a factory, get the operators and the maintenance people because they tend to know a lot. But get as many people as you can and spend a lot of time on that, because that's, to me, that's one of the most important things, is getting those levels right before you start. You don't want to come back and have to widen those or find out that your experiment failed because you had them too wide.
It looks like we had a couple of questions in the chat early on. For significance, won't a Cuthbert Daniel plot and a signal noise ratio on the results help distill it to a point? That was the first question.
Okay, let me go to the chat. I'm not sure what you mean when you say distill it to a point. So the signal to noise ratio, that's, I mean, that's what my p-value is doing for me. And you can look at these on plots. Since I was we only had an hour here, I chose not to look at the plots and just look at the coefficients and look at the p-values just for speed. But yeah, the plots are very, I always like looking at plots. It's easier to interpret than just looking at numbers.
Then the second question was for randomizer, would randomizer.com work?
It would. It would. The other thing you can do, and let me share my screen again. If I'm in here, I'll just take one of these that I didn't do yet. I could just come here and say a random number, and if I could say equals RAND, then that gives me a random number between 0 and 1. And you see every time I press F9, the numbers change. So what I could do is I could just say sort, and then sort by the random number, puts them in random order. So lots of ways to randomize.
Perfect. Does anyone else have questions for Dr. Dodson? Okay, I'm guessing that's it as far as questions go. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dr. Dodson. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
thank you for your interesting presentation.
And I will send you this Excel spreadsheet as well as those couple other papers that I mentioned.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bryan.
Thank you.
All right, let's move forward with the rest of our business meeting for this evening. So now we're going to move into our networking sessions. And because it's that time of year all over ASQ that nominations are happening, including with your Phoenix section for elected positions as well as appointed positions, we're going to take a few minutes to talk about the various positions within the Phoenix section, what the roles and responsibilities are of those positions, and then the time commitment that's involved with those positions. And Bob, I hope you'll help me out with this, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, great. So let me actually skip forward a couple of slides. I was hoping that we'd have more officers on tonight, but and they could give their own explanation, since being in a role provides the experience needed to better explain what you actually do. But we'll do our best. I think Bob and I have served in pretty much every role there is in the section between the two of us. So, all right. So we'll just go down the list a little bit. Even if positions are filled, we just want to let you know what each of the positions is. So if they become vacant in the future, you have the opportunity to put in for them, essentially. So the acquisitions editor is a person that finds quality related papers, basically papers written by those in the field or those in academia that are somehow quality or process improvement related. And they post these papers to our My ASQ website once or twice a month, just so that members have access to different reading materials. This is one of those kind of positions that doesn't necessarily take a ton of time, maybe 1 to 2 hours a month if you're really involved in posting papers. But yeah, it's a great position. And then we have the arrangements co-chair. We have arrangements person who does contracts. So this person is responsible for basically finding the venues that we would have on-site meetings at, whether it be a membership meeting, which will hopefully happen again in the future, or networking sessions. And they will work with different vendors and organizations to get those contracts in order for us to have meetings or networking events at those different locations. And then an arrangements co-chair on site. These are the people that are responsible for registering people once they get to the event itself. And they'll make sure to set up the technology, make sure the refreshments are set up, those types of things. Both of these positions, again, probably require 1 to 2 hours a month. And then we have an audit chair position who is responsible for making sure that all of the required documents are uploaded to SharePoint or another location that is determined to that we've determined will work for sharing our documents. And this position is probably another one that requires 1 to 2 hours a month. Bob, can you take over for the next couple? I'm going to grab a drink of water.
Sure. I'm going to share my screen
Okay.
so I can pull up a Word document. Hopefully you can all see this. So these are the current positions that are available in the ASQ Phoenix section. As Hillary mentioned, there are some of the positions that are elected by our members of the section. So every year at this time during the month of September, every member unit, that would be every section and every division and every forum, they are required in the month of September to put out a call for nominations. So as a general rule, the member units will slate someone to serve in a position who they already have as a part of that membership team, otherwise known as the member leader committee, SLC. We just call it the board for short. So we have a couple of slated positions. These people have served already as our treasurer and secretary. They can be reappointed or reelected. The treasurer is limited to no more than 2 consecutive years, but the other positions can be renewed however frequently, however often that individual might want to serve. Now, slated just means that we have someone already penciled in. However, anybody in our section membership, if you're interested, please let us know, because both Amrish and David have made it be known that, we've served in these positions previously. We've served in for a couple of years. If someone else would like this as a development opportunity, they would be more than happy to step aside and serve as a mentor for someone new coming into the position. But these roles of treasurer and secretary, and there's also another one called a chair-elect, they actually serve as a feeder to the section chair. And in some of the ASQ member units, they actually have a built-in plan where in alternating years, the treasurer in his or her second term or after his or her second year, they would be automatically appointed or slated, I should say, to be the chair. Of course, they still have to be elected if there's any contested office. And then in the odd year, as the chair rolls off, then that would be the secretary. So they serve kind of like as a vice chair type of roles. So again, we are looking for all 3 officers if anybody is interested. These are elected positions, and they are required by ASQ headquarters. Every member unit must have a chair, a treasurer, and a secretary who are elected. If they don't have any of those, or if they have a gap in any one of those positions, they will not meet the minimum requirements. And oftentimes what happens is you have one or more people performing multiple roles in the organization. We're really hoping we can avoid that. In years past, we've been blessed in the Phoenix section with having multiple people expressed an interest in positions, and we have a spreadsheet of names of people who would like to serve, but they're not too often people who want to serve in one of the elected positions. But we highly, highly encourage, if you're interested, to please self-nominate for one of these elected positions. If you're interested in what any of these positions, roles, and responsibilities are, there are job descriptions, or what they call in ASQ position descriptions, that are available. You can go to My ASQ and you can do a search on the position descriptions. Otherwise, within the ASQ Phoenix section, we have actually written Phoenix section roles and responsibilities because within a business unit or a member unit, I should say, the roles and responsibilities might deviate a little bit from what ASQ National has, because those are just default generalized roles and responsibilities. If we in the Phoenix section, we have some of these positions and responsibilities so nailed down that we can provide a lot more rigor in the actual position description. For example, if you were going to be the voice of customer chair, which I am currently filling in an interim role, but that person, in order to conduct the surveys that are required, must learn how to use Qualtrics, which is the survey software that ASQ has a license to. It's very easy to use, but just be assured that if anybody comes into a position, not only do we have position descriptions detailing the roles and responsibility, but we have people on our membership team who have been around for years. We know the ins and outs, and we can always provide personalized onboarding as well. So I am currently serving as the VOC chair. I've held all of these positions in one or more member units of ASQ. I've served as the chair and multiple positions within the statistics division. I've served as the chair in multiple positions for the Minnesota section, which is ASQ's single largest section. And I finished a 3-year term as chair, and I'm currently now the nominating chair, the past chair, and the voice of customer chair. And oh, by the way, the social media coordinator. I'm retired, so I've got the time. We don't expect anyone who's working full-time to have anywhere near that level of bandwidth. But hopefully we have people in our membership that wish to give back and they want to help develop their own network for their own career path. Certainly, as filling any one of these positions on our member leadership team will expose you to a lot more people as far as building your network. And you get to work with a great team of dedicated professionals. David Gibson, Amrish Patel, and we've been here so many years in either in the Phoenix section or some other member unit of ASQ. And we continue because we enjoy it and we like to give back to the community. So during the month of September, especially with the elected positions, if you are at all interested, please contact Hillary or myself, and we can help you understand more about the responsibilities. But they're all all of these positions are relatively small as far as time, although the section chair, admittedly, is a bigger role and responsibility. Especially if we don't have some of these other positions filled, someone's got to fill that responsibility. And if push comes to shove, it may fall to the section chair. Hopefully, if it's such a case coming in this year that we don't have all of these positions filled, please be confident knowing that I am going to be here. I've been with ASQ for 38 years. I'm not going away. I'm still going to be actively involved. And again, I've served in all of these positions. Same with Amrish and David. They've served in multitude of positions and other members of our leadership team. Meanwhile, during the course of the year, and we'd like to have everything filled by the end of this year, we would also like to have names identified for some of these appointed positions. They are currently vacant and being filled by either Hillary or myself. And so it gets to be quite a caseload. We'd really love to have somebody from our membership. Please consider stepping up and volunteering. So the membership chair, pretty self-explanatory. Basically what the membership chair does is takes every month ASQ component relations, dumps, or should say uploads to our SharePoint site our membership list. Now, only 2 or 3 people within the section leadership team have access to SharePoint because of data privacy laws that ASQ feels it necessary to limit access to SharePoint. The membership chair and the section chair by default have access to SharePoint, as well as the treasurer, because that's where all of our financial statements have to go. So your role as a membership chair is just to take that list that's in SharePoint, download it to Excel, and then issue reports to the leadership team, which we have a monthly meeting. So you would take that Excel spreadsheet and then just do a little simple data analysis. How many new members did we have for the past month? What's our total membership? How many seniors? How many fellows? That type of segregated data. Because we track that as part of our annual report that every section and every division must submit to ASQ. So to perform that role, to download the spreadsheet, do a little bit of analysis, report it at the monthly officers meeting, that's easily less than an hour. We would also strongly encourage all of our membership team members to attend the majority of our monthly board meetings. So that's another hour a month, hour and a half a month. So if you included the board meeting, these positions are all about 2.5 hours a month. But the actual work is 1 hour or less. The program chair is another appointed position. This person's responsibility is to go out and find speakers and topics that would be of interest to our members. And these are the context then that we would follow up with to see if we could schedule them to deliver one of our monthly program presentations. Again, that's probably less than an hour a month. Right now, I think we have people already identified for the remainder of the year. So you really wouldn't have anything new that's urgent, but begin identifying people who might be interested in speaking effective January of next year. And if you filled out the survey that we publish after every program meeting, you'll see that we ask that question in every survey. Are you interested in presenting? What topics would you like to see presented on? So it's, even the program chair will have some information already coming to them. But the ideal program chair is someone who maybe is connected with some other volunteer organization, or maybe a different ASQ section or a ASQ division. But be aware that there is also now within my ASQ, there is now a speakers forum. So the program chair could just go to my ASQ, click on the speaker bureau, and you can get names, topics, so that you just have to kind of then just work to schedule them into the different monthly programs. That's it. And then attend the program meeting, or the officers meeting, I should say. Hillary kind of explained the arrangements chair already. That's looking, when we do have face-to-face meetings, the primary responsibility is to look for venues. And if we're going to have hors d'oeuvres or beverages, work with a vendor to bring those in. That's really the role of the arrangements chair. Now, we have not had a face-to-face meeting in probably 2 years, although we do try to have at least 1 or 2 face-to-face community service type projects, or this would include plant tours, brewery and winery tours. Those are the types of things that the arrangements chair would really take ownership of. Again, easily less than an hour a month. The VOC chair, because I've been doing it so long, I can say that I nail this down in less than half an hour a month. However, I've been doing it for 20 plus years. So I know it like the back of my hand. Someone new coming in, I'll just say it's probably an hour and a half, at most maybe a 2 hour requirement, because this person has to go into Qualtrics. You're just going to copy an existing survey. You're going to publish it. Then you're going to wait to the end of the month. So that's a 2 to 3 week period. Now you're going to go back into Qualtrics. You're going to click a button to analyze the data. You're going to click another button to publish a report. And from there, you're going to create a feedback survey response for the leadership team. The other big responsibility is to send out a recertification unit certificate that anyone who attends our program meetings or webinars or workshops, all those are tracked through Zoom. So you would go to our Zoom link. You would hold down, you would make a copy of the registration list, of the attendee list. So now you have the list of names and email addresses. These are the people you're going to send that Qualtrics survey. And in that same email, you're going to send a copy of the RU certificate. So of all these positions, the VOC chair is probably the most intense, and that's easily less than 2 hours a month. For me, it's half an hour a month. Then the last one, and why it's color coded differently, this is not a high demand, urgent request. As the social media coordinator right now, I'm kind of looking after all of our social media. I'm the person who sends out the bulk email through Constant Contact. I'm the person who posts regularly on Facebook and LinkedIn and X platforms and Instagram. I would love to have a couple other people to help and maybe kind of divvy up the load. So if any of you are out there who are already active in any of those platforms and you would like to participate and contribute in some meaningful manner, this would be a great opportunity. So again, these are the positions available. The first three are elected, and we have to have names submitted by the end of September, so that then if there are more than one individual and interested in any of these three elected positions, we will hold an election. And there's a separate ASQ process for that. But every member of the Phoenix section will receive a ballot and a short abstract about the candidates. And then it's your responsibility to cast your vote for who you would prefer to hold one of these positions. That would occur in the month of October. Again, the elections are only held if there's more than one position, more than one person interested in any of these three positions. If there's only one candidate, then elections are not required. But we really desperately need a new chair. Hillary has served her 2 years. She's not interested in following me and doing a third. Actually, I don't think she can.
I'm moving up the ladder and volunteering
Yeah.
in ASQ, so that's why I'm not continuing as chair.
Yes, Hillary is going to be our regional director. So she is going to be the person that the various section chairs report to, dotted line, so to speak, within the mountains region of ASQ. So that's like 12 different section chairs will report to Hillary next year as our regional director. So that position is wide open. We need somebody, please step up. There are plenty of people to help you in that role. It's not like we're just going to hand it to you and say, well, best of luck, because the chair, we must have a chair or the section no longer exists. That is what's at risk. So please, 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 if you have any interest at all, please give Hillary or myself a call. We are the two most recent chairs. If you have David's phone number or email, David was the chair before me. So there's a lot of experience that you can lean on to help you in that position. someone had asked earlier if you had to be a member of the Phoenix section to serve in any of these roles. I just went out and looked at the job position descriptions that ASQ has. I'm going to pull this up. So this is what the position description that ASQ has posted, and I believe they're all up on my ASQ. You just have to do a search. This is what it looks like. So it's got the position title. What is the general responsibility? What's the term of service? What are the most frequent or important roles and responsibilities? What are the qualifications? What's the time commitment per month? And then what are other resources available to you? And then if there's training available, there's also links to training. So this document exists for every one of those position descriptions. Now, in every case, it said that you must be a member in good standing associated with that division or section. So yes, you must be a member of Phoenix section to hold one of these positions. However, you do not have to live in Arizona. And a classic example, our my ASQ administrator, Barbara Bannock, lives in
Illinois.
Illinois. Is it Illinois or Indiana? Lives in Illinois, but she is a paid member of the Phoenix section. She gets so much value out of the Phoenix section that she says, I have to be a member. You guys have monthly program meetings. Other sections don't. If they do 4 a year, that is the minimum requirement, but we do our best to have one every year, plus all the networking events and webinars and short courses. So she is serving as my ASQ admin. So she's the person who's putting the bulk of the postings up on my ASQ every month. And she works with everybody else because she doesn't have all that information. She looks to all of us to feed her the information, and then she posts it. So, is there anybody out there who has a question concerning any of these positions? Is there anybody out there who might even remotely be interested in one of these? Let's see everybody's hand go up. Come on. You can do it. I know you can.
Despite the work, it really is a lot of fun working on this leadership team and with this group of people. It's been a great few years that I've been on the leadership team for this section in various positions, and I think that any one of you who's on the call tonight would have a great time doing it.
So please contact, if you are kind of shy and don't want to speak up in this large virtual audience, please give Hillary or myself a call or send us an email, and we'd be happy to answer your questions.
Yep.
I'll reach out to you, Hillary and Robert. I'll have some extra time coming up here soon, so I'd be interested in maybe one of those roles.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mitchell.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Again, there's like 6 or 7 positions there, so there's ample variety to have some new people come into the organization. It's not a lot of work, hour to an hour and a half, plus the hour and a half board meeting. That's really it.
Yeah.
It's not a big demand on your time.
All right. Thanks, Bob, for the explanation. You did better than I think I would have done. I appreciate it.
That's both a strength and a, I don't know, hazard of having gray hair, I think. We've seen it, we've done it.
Yeah.
Or we keep coming back for more. I don't know.
Right. All right, we'll go ahead and move forward with the rest of our announcements for this evening. We do have some announcements for ASQ as a society as a whole and ASQ Phoenix section. A couple of ASQ events to keep your eyes on that are coming up. We have the Quality Innovation Summit being held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin this year, October 8th through 10th. And that is being offered as a hybrid conference. So if you aren't able to attend in person, you will be able to attend via the intranet. There's also the Women in Quality Symposium, which is a completely virtual event, and that will be held on December 5th of this year. And I forgot to turn my camera back on. Let me turn that on. We have the 2025 Lean and Six Sigma Conference coming up February 23rd through 25th of 2025. And then the World Conference on Quality and Improvement is being held in Denver, Colorado, May 4th through 7th of next year. And then as Bob was mentioning previously, these are your current 2024 ASQ Phoenix section officers. We have myself, who is the section chair, Dave Gibson, who's secretary, and then Amrish Patel, who is treasurer. We won't go over this slide because we basically just did. So I'll move forward. And then this one I was already showing you. These are just your current Phoenix section leadership team members, as well as all the vacant roles in red. And then we are looking for program presenters. As Bob mentioned, we do have presenters scheduled out through the end of the year, actually through January of next year. So if that program chair is something that you'd be interested in, you are covered for the next few months. So you will have an easy transition into the program chair position, because I'm still looking for people. So you might even get away with a couple more months into 2025. But if you're interested in presenting for the Phoenix section, presentations can be on soft skills or technical skills related to quality in any industry. Presentation should be about an hour. Sometimes they're a little under, sometimes they're a little over, and that's okay. If there is something that you would like to present on, a topic you would like to present on, please contact me at hwerner@memberleader.asq.org. SWAY, which is the Southwest Alliance for Excellence, is currently offering a Taco Tuesday webinar mini-series. They've had previous mini-series dates on July 9th, August 13th, and they have their final one coming up on September 17th, which will be best practices for building a culture for continuous improvement and innovation. It's going to be held from 10 to 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time via Zoom. And you can find more information on this event through asqphoenix.org or sway.org if you are interested. Upcoming networking events in 2024, we are still working on a wine tasting. We're just basically at this point trying to whittle down which winery we're going to go to. Be on the lookout for event invitations via Constant Contact, and the event information will also be on asqphoenix.org under the events tab when the event actually does go live. So a couple of places you can be on the watch for that. For attending the monthly program meetings, if you are a member of the Phoenix section in attendance at the monthly program meetings, your name will be entered into a drawing for a section branded travel tumbler. This past month, August, we had Patrick S., who was our winner. So congratulations, Patrick S. All right, this is one of the section program performance survey and resulting, I guess, charts are something that the VOC chair does every month for the section leadership team, and then for you all as well, because you get to see it in my slideshow. So this basically just demonstrates our performance from the previous meeting. At the last meeting in August, we had 53 attendees, and we had a survey response rate of 26%. Overall, our speaker received great reviews. We had 21.4% of those respondents say that they thought the speaker was good, and 78.6% of those respondents thought the speaker was great. Regarding networking, 14.3% of those respondents said that networking last month was great, 50% said that it was good, and 35.7% were neutral. Overall satisfaction, most folks that responded to the survey said they were extremely satisfied. And then our Net promoter score, promoters were 85.7% of those respondents. And our median performance last month received 90%, and our 12-month average is currently sitting right around 83%. So we're doing pretty good from the feedback that we're being given. So thank you for those of you that do respond to those surveys. We do take your comments to heart. As the kind of interim programs chair, I've been looking at the topics that you've been sending in during those program surveys, and I've been trying to find people that align with those topics. So just know we do listen to you. We do try to find things that align with what you want us to do. So just a little tutorial on the MyASQ Phoenix Sections webpage. If you haven't been to the site yet, or you're still unfamiliar navigating it, under the events tab, you'll find upcoming section events, including conferences and monthly programs. Under the discussion tab, you will find a job board that is updated at least weekly with new positions that are coming up in quality and continuous improvement. Under the library tab is where you'll find previous program recordings to watch for RUs and email Robert Mitchell for an RU certificate. This one, I keep setting reminders for myself to fix this, but because it's hidden, it always surprises me. Sorry about that, guys. So send your requests for RU certificates to Robert Mitchell. Under the library tab is where you'll find newsletters, handouts, presentations, and mini papers. Just a plug on senior membership versus professional membership. With your baseline ASQ professional membership, you'll get professional networking within a global organization. You'll get discounts on training programs and events, conferences that are offered through ASQ. You'll have access to online and published content. You'll receive updates on professional news and issues for current best practices and innovative emerging trends. And you can attend Phoenix section networking events as well. For no charge at all to you, you can upgrade to senior membership and add either a journal of your choice or a second section membership. But there are some qualifications to become a senior member. You need to be an ASQ member in good standing for 1 year. You need to have 10 years of professional experience and have one of the additional four qualifications. You need to have conducted quality-related work for at least 2 years, have taught quality-related classes at a college for 2 years, have been a senior member of another comparable organization, or currently hold an ASQ certification that requires recertification. So just something to keep in mind. Again, it's no charge to you, and you get added member benefit by either joining a second section or getting that journal of your choice. All right, just a few comments for wrap up. Please be sure to complete the event satisfaction survey that will be sent out by Bob Mitchell. Our upcoming 2024 program schedule, what we have left of the year, we're striving to provide a program meeting to you all 12 months of this year. All will be in Zoom. We would like to provide one tour of a winery is what we're hoping for, and this will be in person only. And then I'm currently working on setting up a community outreach event at St. Mary's Food Bank. I think we've whittled down a date. I just need to get the promotional material for that out. So be on the lookout for that soon. And then coming up on October 10th of this year, our program meeting will host, oh shoot, I'm forgetting his name all of a sudden. I'm so sorry, but he's Steve Gompertz. He'll be speaking on guerrilla tactics for quality leadership. So you'll have that to look forward to next month. Please remember that you can find us on various social media sites, including Facebook, LinkedIn, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So if you're into social media, please be sure to connect with us there. Are there any final thoughts, comments, or questions before we wrap up this evening?
Well, I want to add two additional points to our call for volunteers that I
Okay.
failed to mention. One of those being you do earn additional RU recertification units for being a volunteer. Those would fall under the committee banner under ASQ. So obviously you're currently getting RUs for attending the program meeting. You would also get RUs as a member leader because of your time committed to performing your role, plus the time attending our leadership team meetings. In addition to that, just another point for food for thought. If you are a member leader of a section or a division, you will qualify for an additional member leader discount if you're thinking of attending the World Quality Conference. And this next May, the conference will be right up the road, so to speak, in Denver. So again, if you had any interest in attending that annual conference, ASQ gives you a discount as a member leader. So
Yep.
few
And you
more
actually,
incentives.
yep, and you get one more day of content at Member Leader Day, which usually happens on the Sunday prior to the conference itself.
Yeah,
So,
they usually have some training sessions there.
yeah. All right, do we have any more comments before we wrap up this evening? Okay, well, I will take the silence as everyone is satisfied. Well, thank you all for your attendance. Be safe, stay healthy, and please be sure to join us next month. And we look forward to seeing some emails in our inbox about some of the vacant positions, please. It is a lot of fun, but yes, please consider it. We would appreciate it. All right, everyone, have a great night and a great month, and we'll see you in October.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.